Okay, here's a great question where you're asked to graph the given function. So I need to graph this thing here. Let me just write it out again. So y is equal to 2 times f of x plus 1. Oh, and that's it. Nice. Now, this is a good idea to put this stuff in there as to what things get affected. So if I'm comparing this to this general formula, like that, this should be equals. This and d, those both affect y values. And a is where you'd multiply all the y values by a, and d is you would add or subtract all the y values by d. And then b and c both affect x values, where b you would divide all the x values by b, and c you'd either move things left or right, so you'd add or subtract. Okay, so when I look at this question here, I see an a value of 2. So since a is 2, that means I'm going to multiply all the y values by 2. And then the only other number I have there is this one. That's a c value. And that if it's positive 1, we know that moves it left 1. So since c, and the formula has a minus in there, so c is really negative 1. So that moves the graph left 1. So I'll subtract 1 from all of the x values. Okay, so let's try some. So this point right there is minus 5 and 2. Okay, so if I want to transform that, I'm going to first move things left by 1. So if I move this left by 1, it's minus 5 already, left by 1, it'll turn out to be minus 6. And then if I take and I multiply the y value by 2, this is 2, I times it by 2, I get 4. So my first point would be minus 6, 4. Okay, if I do that same thing to the next one, I'll get minus 3, 4. Minus 3, 4. And to this point, it's at 2, so left 1 would be a positive 1 times the negative 2 by 2 would be negative 4. So 1, negative 4. And then 5, so it'd be 4 and negative 4. 4, negative 4. So the graph should look something like that. Right? Hopefully that helps you in taking a whole graph and transforming it based on a function.